Hey everybody, Cody, Menz, and Levi here, and another WoT's new video for you. Today, going over some stuff happening, in the game, and also we're gonna go over basically some Polish medium tanks and the Sandbox server, equipment-wise. Just a couple quick thoughts on that. I'm not gonna take too much time because honestly, I believe that it's gonna take a while for us to actually really wrap our heads around this. I know a lot of people are making like clickbait videos, and this is destroying the game and that's destroying the game and it's Sandbox, we're testing it. Honestly, I hope everybody hops onto the Sandbox and at least tries it. You can get some premium time out of it for your live server account just for playing some battles, and hopefully people give it a whirl and not just focus on the extremes right now. And yeah, kind of like right now the 4,600 DPM Strov 103B that I have kind of equipped up here. In any event, what's kind of happening in the game? So first and foremost, let's just start with some stuff NA server wise. They're selling some 3D styles in a premium shop through June. Honestly, I think they're a little pricey. You have to buy these through the shop if you want them now. They previously were in the client for gold. Who knows, maybe we'll see them in the bond shop at some point, because they said that's a possibility. Maybe some 3D styles being put in there at some point. Tank rewards, D-Day version is kind of a go. Top prizes, basically the Krupp Waffentrager, the Thunderbolt, and Firefly. Honestly, Thunderbolt's probably the most enjoyable to play out of them. However, I guess the best bang for your buck if you had to pick something is the Waffentrager, which is a pretty fun tank to play, but poorly armored, really just like a mid long range sniper. But yeah, some pretty cool stuff you can get from tank rewards. And looks like, popping over here, and all these links in the videos are in the video description, order that they show up in. It seems pretty achievable. You just have to play a lot of the days. They want you to basically log in and play at least once a day to get this. Now moving into Polish tanks, they're currently testing so the tier 10 and also the CS52, which seems to be the premium tank that they're most likely releasing before the Polish tanks. It's rumored that these things are going to be coming at the end of August, early September. So not the 1.9.1, yeah, 1.9.1 patch that's coming up soon here, but probably 2 patches down the road. We are probably going to see them being implemented. They're starting to super test them, which this is a link to Wargaming NA's YouTube channel with the video if you did not see the teaser for them. Essentially what these tanks are going to be, you have essentially Russian tanks, and I feel like kind of a blend of like a all-around tank, like an American tank tree. They're tiny, super fast, little bit of gun depression, so like 8 degrees on a lot of them, and the guns honestly are they're fairly accurate. They're not like pinpoint accurate though. Penetration's nothing crazy, and they do a decent damage per shot, so they're not well armored. The tier 10 has a pretty unique feature too, where you're going to be able to swap into 2 modes, one faster mode kind of like the EBR 105, and one slower mode where you play like a normal medium. However, in the faster mode you're going to lose, I believe, camouflage and also on the move accuracy quite a bit. Maybe that's a peek at what they might do to the wheeled vehicles, the EBR, and you only can change into it while basically you're stationary, which I think is a pretty cool idea. But I would take a look at Wargaming NA's channel here, and also later today, I believe around noon or 1 p.m. Eastern time, they're releasing a basically new series on the NA side. Probably something to replace WoT Weekly in a way. It should be a pretty cool video. I would definitely give them a look. They've kind of been teasing it for a while now. But that's supposed to release on Wargaming NA's channel, which you can find in the link in this video description. Last but not least though, so the equipment change. I'm just going to go over my general thoughts here. I'm not going to dive into a super in-depth video because I feel like it's preemptive. I know other YouTubers, CCs, people have gone into it. I'm playing the Sandbox server on my live streams the best I can, at least for the first hour or so. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't actually try, the Sandbox server for whatever reasons, where I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, because Wargaming, they are gathering feedback. Like I'm going to provide feedback about this, and they are listening to what people are bringing up the most. But essentially, I think the crew, or this does kind of rope in with the crew changes they have planned too, which will also be sandboxed tests from my understanding. But the equipment changes I like. There's definitely issues. Like some people always, they point out the EBR and, light tanks, you can spot people for not just the EBR, but basically light tanks, you can spot up to 18 seconds a tank now, because now there's a piece of equipment that can add plus 4 seconds to if you spot a tank. The base value is 2 seconds. However, if you put it in the right slot, it goes up to 4 seconds. Like I feel like stuff like that might need toned down, because if that's a little bit too powerful in some sense, but it's a tough thing to where it's really easy, and which I'm not going to go over every single change here. The article's linked here. If you haven't read it already, I would definitely read it. It's really hard because you can specialize your tank. Like take the Strava 103B in my background here, I'll go into. Like I did a pure DPM, basically buff. However, you can't put codec optics on light or on tank destroyers anymore, which I'll get into that in a minute. And you also lose other attributes if you kind of specialize, where if you get a bad map, or even if you're on a good map, you can't play the side that you really want to be on, or if you do play it, then you have to progress and like move forward or backwards. You're definitely going to be at a disadvantage if you specialize. So it's really tough to say like one thing's broken or not. I feel like we finally, for 10 years into the game, we now have basically a system to where it's not just slapping a vertical stabilizer, optics or vents, and a rammer on your tank. Like that's legitimately how it's been for pretty much the entirety of the game, where you actually have to make decisions now, which I think is nice. Is it perfect yet? No, which is why they're Sandbox testing it, but I do feel like it's a better system. Essentially though, there's new pieces of equipment. The old ones, some change, some don't. And, I kind of like it to where I'll go a little bit into the, basically the garage and a client here and play around with it. The one big thing, which if you have watched my live streams, I am not going to actually apply any equipment here on this video, because it freezes your client. It might be because of the sandbox, but honestly, switching anything in a garage currently on a server, it usually takes like 10 seconds to switch a piece of equipment or something. On the sandbox here, it takes me sometimes like 3 or 4 minutes to actually switch equipment and like ammunition and stuff on my tank. The garages, they need to do something. Like Wargaming needs to, Wargaming fix the delay in switching anything in a garage. I get like it's probably server based, to where it phones to the server and comes back to you, so people can't hack or something and get things that they shouldn't. But it's unacceptable that it literally takes like 30 plus seconds for a piece of equipment to apply before you can move to the next one. It's insane. Like it's 2020, for God's sakes. Like, come on. The one big change though, before I get into the client though, is like the changing of slots for low tiers. I like it. I would say though, it does make, so honestly, like tier 1 not having any, tier 2 having 1 slot, tier 3, it is going to make, it's going to be different, to where it's going to be tough playing those tiers. Like I see them just, treating it as a tutorial. The only thing I would say, like, honestly, in a sense, like, I don't think, matchmaking should go to same tier or plus or minus 1 tier for, every tier. However, I'd argue that, they should look into at least like a plus or minus 1 matchmaking, just hard cap for low tiers, if not same tier matchmaking, because with the difference between equipment slots and especially consumables, it's a pretty big change. I think tier 4 you shouldn't be able to see above tier 5, and honestly tier 3, 2, and 1 should only be playing against one another, because it is a pretty big change. I like the change, and honestly it's partially to make it fairer for new players and also introduce them to the game, hurt people who seal club, which honestly some people like playing low tiers, which that's their choice, but at least it'll be more fair to newer players. And you know, when it comes down to it, you know, I like to change, but I feel like they're going to have to think about it a little bit more when it comes to, you know, the matchmaking and stuff. So getting into things here, though, when it comes to equipment, so tank destroyers here, like I have this equipped for basically as pure DPM, which is nuts. Getting into the equipment slots. So when it comes to like bounty and basically bond equipment, like they definitely buffed it to where it's nice. It almost feels like it's a little bit too strong sometimes, because while it doesn't get bonuses, I still don't have like a well-informed opinion about it, because it feels like they made bounty and bond equipment better, and now bond equipment is better than bounty equipment basically for the bonuses, as you see 13.5 seconds and then 12.5 seconds here for the bounty. I'm not sure if, you know, it feels like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards in a sense. Yeah, I don't know. But in any event, when it comes to standard equipment, so, you know, they broke down to firepower, you have survivability, you also have mobility, and also scouting. And then each tank, it's not just based off of your tank class. Like each tank individually, they chose different, and at the high tiers, you have 2 slots here, basically where you can get bonus attributes for putting in equipment. Like I said, I'm not going to apply anything here because it's really laggy, and it honestly freezes the game, if not crashes it sometime. It's terrible. Like, this is the #1 thing. Wargaming, if you're going to change this, say say someone like myself who's been playing the game for a while, it's going to take me a minimum, like say if it takes me 1 minute to switch a tank, like the equipment, if I know what I want to put on it, it's going to take me at least like 10 hours to change all my tanks. And with it freezing and lagging and everything, it's going to take forever, to where they need to fix this. This is like the #1 priority, I feel like, with this change. Looks like Levi's ready for bed. He's going to ditch me. Anyway, though, when it comes to the slots, I like it. It does give them some balancing parameters to balance individual tanks, albeit it does open up issues if they don't balance these slots correctly, in a sense. I'll get to that in a moment. But I like it. I think right now, like breaking down what I think needs changed and what doesn't, honestly, all these are fine. I think the improved aiming unit class, though, is too strong, specifically for artillery, and also for high caliber like TDs, like the FE4005. This is way too good. It's basically, and especially for TDs that can't mount like a vertical stabilizer, you can put this on here. This thing is way too good, especially if you can put it into a firepower slot, where you can basically get it up to 9%, the 9% bonus. It's way too big of a bonus, honestly. It makes things, like especially already, way too small, and it's way too good right now. When it comes to survivability, I think they hit the nail on the head with these. I don't really notice anyone that's like too weak. The vehicle hardening, like you can get it at the 10%, which I think is nice. I'd say, honestly, I think it would be better if they 12% or so. Like, it feels a little weak. Like on a mouse, it adds 310 HP to it, which is a good amount. Like, it's almost a full shot worth, you know, of protecting you, but I feel like it needs to be a little bit higher, like maybe 15% at most, and buff, you know, the bonus for the basic one, you know, to say like 8%, you know, 7-8%. But I feel like, you know, these are nice to where people who ain't getting hit by arty, now you have, you know, improved tank helmets. And honestly, the one that I found putting on my tanks the most was the improved consumables. 50 seconds if you put it into the correct slot, which I think is awesome. It gets your consumables down to 40 seconds for the improved ones, which are pretty darn nice. I think it's a really nice bonus here. When it comes to the improved, so the mobility, these, like, I see a lot of people, we tried on my live stream an EBR 105 with max out mobility and also like traverse and everything, and you see what I'm dealing with here. He's like, "Dad, you want a biscuit?" He can't see. "Here, buddy, get a biscuit." Oh my god, this dog can't see. Honestly, it was almost undrivable. Like, and honestly, adding a little bit more mobility, it didn't feel that broken. Like, it was undrivable to where you lose out on view range and your gun stats, to where that's not the main problem, you know. With these, like, I don't think that these are broken. I think these are fine. I even tried like an IS-7 with the increased engine power, and that actually felt really nice. However, you know, I took a big hit to my view range of my gun. So, you know, and of course, I don't know what the hell just happened here. Did the server die on me? What happened? It took my stuff away. It's like he's making a video. We're gonna take his stuff away here. That was strange. But yeah, I thought that was, I think it's nice. Like, you actually have to think about your equipment now and how you play, to where I think that's a good change. When it comes to the scouting options, like, TDs only have camo nets now. One thing I noticed though, so it is going to be a change to where, honestly, I don't know if they really need to implement the restrictions, like on the camo nets, the binocs, and the optics. Like, let people pick them yourself. I don't think they need to restrict them. If they do, I can live with it, but I get the people who are bringing up that they can't put camouflage on their medium tank or light tank, especially for lower tier tanks. And the same with binocs and no optics on TDs and stuff. I feel like you should be able to make that choice for yourself. When it comes to, you know, TDs having options here, you don't have too many, basically, for the scouting and the view range and stuff. But yeah, moving over to, say, like a medium tank that has more options, and even like heavies. So let me guess, I'm just gonna pick the T110E5 here because you have more stuff. And this is kind of like a generic, you know, all-around tank. You do have access to which heavies it's not really useful, but for like lights and mediums, even though you don't have a camo net anymore, you do have kind of a replacement for the low noise exhaust system, which works pretty much, you know, at all times, which is a kind of replacement for the camo net. So for those freaking out about the camo net, you do kind of have a replacement here, albeit I still feel like they should provide it for all tanks and let people pick. So getting into, you know, some other stuff here, like you see most of the same things for like a heavy. The one thing I'll say is, for a tank like the T110E5, when it comes to the survivability, like, I feel like a heavy tank, even though the E5 is classified as a heavy, giving it like a survivability, this is where balancing each tank is going to be difficult for them. When it comes to survivability, it's kind of weird because, like, I would say, like, improved consumables is useful for this. Or you have to put bounty or bond equipment in to get a good bonus out of this slot and not feel like you're wasting, you know, the bonus here. That's the one thing that I still haven't wrapped my head around, whether the bounty and bond equipment, having those extra bonuses wherever you put them, is too strong. Because for tanks like the E5 that have this survivability spot, you know, really, this is the only one I could see actually using, is the consumable cooldown. So I feel like the only way I could see like them getting around it is basically for like every tank, like if they had 4 slots where you basically had a firepower, a mobility, a scout, and, you know, you had 1 slot for each thing, where you could put 1 piece of equipment in each slot if you want, or you can choose to put a different piece of equipment. That would be a huge change, but I feel like that's really the only way for wargaming to kind of get around having to balance each individual tank with what actual equipment goes into it, is if they had 4 total slots for the equipment. It would be a big change for the game. Honestly, they would have to do it, I feel like, every single tier, like tier 5, you know, through 10. They would have to do that, and also kind of stagger it down to tier 1, you know, with the equipment. Like tier 4 should have, you know, like it should have 3 slots, then 2 slots, 1 slot, etc., etc. So kind of what they're doing now. But that's my, you know, my concern here is with that. Like, honestly though, like, I like the changes, so let me know in the video comment section down here. I'm not going to go on and on about each individual thing. Like, there's definitely a lot of like doom and gloom people out there right now. Like, there are some issues. Like, my main concerns, the load time for actually applying equipment is terrible, and it lags, and it's the worst thing ever. It's worse than a live server. Honestly, though, my main concerns, so the amount of spotting time, yes, if you max that out to like 18 seconds, a little bit too long. Honestly, the fix for that is honestly get the equipment instead of it going up to 4 seconds max, maybe max it out at 3 seconds or even 2 seconds, something like that. But then again, you're kind of maximizing that, but you're losing out on other stats. So is it really broken? I don't know. Artie, though, honestly, when you use, say, this combination, because Artie doesn't have that many useful things, people are going to put a gun laying drive on. People are going to put a rammer on. This thing's way too good when it comes down to it. So you can get it to 9 seconds to the aim, or 9% for the aiming circle size. It's massive for SPGs, the amount that buffs it. It's way too good for SPGs. Honestly, for high caliber tanks too, because pretty much it works at all times. It's almost like a vertical stabilizer almost, albeit smaller bonus, but it's really freaking good. The where I feel like a better value would be like 4% and like 6% for this. I feel like 5% and 9% is way too good. And then otherwise, when it comes down to it, like there's not too many other things that like really stick out that are completely broken to me, but it's still too early to tell. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do note though, this is sandbox testing. Please don't be a Debbie Downer and super negative, because I'm just gonna ignore it. Do note your testing, provide valuable feedback, and who knows, maybe I'll try to pass it on to Wargaming if I kind of agree with you. And if you're just being negative, like the game's dying, like how dare they change this and stuff, at least make it nice. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget tomorrow, or not tomorrow, so today, because this is releasing basically Friday, Wargaming is going to have a kind of new series. I think it's WoT Weekly kind of 2.0, coming back with a new host and video production team. A lot of people think that, but who knows, maybe they'll surprise us. But anyway, have a good night. This little one's dragging me to bed, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.